You're listening to the What Is It Show. Life, reality, and redemption. Here's your host, Shane Haleko.
This podcast is meant for mature audiences only. Listener discretion is advised.
The story you are about to listen to is a true story, based on events over the last few years. This podcast is being narrated by Frank Perez. Episode 5.
Besides my wife, I had two other children living at home at the time. Shane Jr., born in 2001, and Olivia, born in 2005. Many times I needed to restrain Sean, who continued getting bigger and stronger as his behaviors escalated with violence. Unfortunately, his siblings, Shane Jr. and Olivia, had to witness this. Due to my training in residential work, I would have the kids and my wife leave the house to take the audience factor away from Sean. This was a tool used in an effort to de-escalate Sean faster and to provide safety to my family. This was not normal for a home environment. It was getting to the point where the safety of my other two children was being compromised by Sean's behaviors. Basically, my children were not living in a safe environment. I realized that my wife and I could easily have 51 A's filed against us for not providing a safe and nurturing environment for Shane Jr. and Olivia. This could have led to the removal of Shane Jr. and Olivia from our home if this continued. By now, we desperately needed to get Sean into a 24/7 residential program. On October 28th of 2010, Sean became seriously ill. His pediatrician sent us immediately to Hasbro Children's Hospital. As we got to the emergency room, Sean's organs had begun shutting down. His skin color began to change, and the skin on his fingers was starting to peel off. Doctors immediately began life-saving procedures right in the ER waiting room. To this day, I still cannot get that sight out of my mind. Sean had developed sepsis in his heart, a condition that is normally fatal. But thankfully, due to the quick decision of his primary and the fantastic work by the doctors in the ER, Sean survived. We call him our hero, our warrior. Thankfully, my son is as strong as an ox. Finally, in 2011, I was able to contact our state rep. I explained to him the severity of Sean's behaviors and the lack of education and proper treatment he was receiving. I also gave him an outline of the amount of times Sean had been hospitalized. All of those years being in and out of Bradley Hospital took away from Sean's quality of life. He was not getting his proper education as signed in his individual education plan, which becomes a legal document and by law needs to be followed. He was missing his family, special events, holidays, birthdays, and of course, his dogs. At his young age, his constitutional rights as a human being were being violated. On November 29th of 2011, we have our individual education plan meeting, or IEP, with the quote-unquote team. Only this time, our state representative was part of the team. After reviewing all that Sean and our family had been through, plus their request by the doctor at Bradley Hospital from 2009 for residential placement, our state rep demanded that the school department would fully commit and support 24/7 residential treatment by writing it directly into his IEP. The school department's team complied with our state rep's demands during that meeting. My wife and I immediately began searching for 24/7 residential placements. We wanted a placement that was no farther than an hour away from his home due to his serious heart condition, medical issues, and unsafe behaviors in vehicles. This way, we could get to the residential facility quickly if needed, and if we had to transport Sean, a shorter driving distance would be much faster. On December 7th, 2011, we met with the Amigo Residential Program. They had reviewed his file and stated that they would accept him into the program. We were thrilled. Amigo was only 15 minutes away from us. But the school department denied this placement and stated that since they would be funding his placement, they would have the final say. So much for the team concept, huh? We don't know why the school department denied this placement. I hope that I am wrong, but my guess is that it came down to the cost. They were putting a price tag on our son's treatment, education, and overall his well-being. The school department had us looking at other residential placements. All of them, one by one, denied accepting Shawn due to his severe behaviors. It is important to keep in mind that at this time, Shawn has been hospitalized since around July of 2011. He is for the most part stable, safe, and heavily medicated. We were receiving monthly insurance bills. It was costing Massachusetts Health 6 figures a month for Shawn to be held in a psychiatric hospital while the school department desperately searched for a placement that would accept him. The school department, in my opinion, was negligent of not taking a proactive approach. For starters, they did not take our concerns for possible 24/7 residential placement into consideration by directly denying doctor's orders dating back to 2009, which requested that Shawn needed 24/7 residential placement. They also denied the Amigo residential placement that we supported in December of 2011. This would have avoided a rush for them to make the final decision of admitting him to a residential program that was not qualified to keep our son safe. It was also an hour and a half away from his home. January 2012. Shawn remains hospitalized at Bradley Hospital, basically being held until a residential placement would accept him. It would completely break our hearts every time we visited him. As we would leave, he would cling onto my wife's shirt, crying for us to take him home and stating that he had been good. He did not understand why he was being held there. It was very sad. This same month, the Cardinal Cushion Center residential program in Hanover, Massachusetts, stated to the school department that they would accept Shawn into their program. When the school department informed us where Shawn's placement was going to be, we were far from excited. With traffic, it was about an hour and a half away, much farther than we wanted him to be due to his severe medical conditions and behaviors. Also, the villas where the residents stayed were not too far from the main busy intersection of Route 53. This was a great cause of concern for us because Shawn was an eloper. We could have asked for a quote-unquote stay or a mediation to challenge the school department's decision, but Shawn had been hospitalized for so long. We did not feel it was in the best interest of Shawn to be kept in a psychiatric hospital. We agreed with their decision, and to this day, I take full responsibility and guilt for sending my son to a place that was unable to keep him safe once again. My wife and I, along with our out-of-district school rep, visited Cardinal Cushion Center in January of 2012. Shawn is now 14 years old. They reassured us that their staff was trained and would be able to keep our son safe. Their intake and clinical team visited and observed Shawn at Bradley Hospital on February 1st of 2012. After this final observation, the Cardinal Cushion Center officially accepted Shawn into their program. I once again asked about their ability to keep Shawn safe, and once again, I was reassured that they could do so. We felt a little bit of relief. Shawn would be finally out of the hospital where he no longer belonged and would begin to earn home visits. On February 6 of 2012, we took Shawn straight from the hospital to the Cardinal Cushion Center to be admitted. Part of their behavioral strategy is to heavily medicate a child in an effort to be able to manage a child's behavior. We were not in support of the medication to assist in behavioral management, but we listened to the professionals and agreed. Emotionally, we were devastated. It was hard to realize that Shawn would no longer be living at his home full time. August 20th, 2012. Shawn's heart doctor put in a wish with the Children's Wish Organization due to his near-death experience back in 2010. We did not even know the doctor had done this, but Shawn's choice was Disney, with everything fully paid by the Children's Wish Organization. We were able to stay at the Give Kids the World resort just outside of Disney. We returned on Sunday, August 26th. I wish we could say it was an enjoyable trip, but it was not. Sean had multiple meltdowns and behaviors throughout much of the trip. It was like a ticking time bomb. Sometimes he seemed to enjoy himself, other times he had explosive behaviors. It was great when we finally returned home and Sean was able to go back into a structured environment. For the most, Sean was able to be picked up from Cardinal Cushing Center on Friday afternoons. He would spend the weekends at home, and then I would bring him back Monday mornings. While at home, we continued to see concerning behaviors from Sean. If he was told no, he would have a major meltdown and become violent. We felt like we were on eggshells around Sean, waiting for that next outburst. It got to the point that we would not set too many limits with Sean to avoid these meltdowns while he was home. We felt that the Cardinal Cushing Center could set tighter limits in a residential environment and could handle his outbursts due to the fact that they had staffing to keep him safe. October 28th, 2012. Sean once again becomes sick with sepsis in his heart. My wife and I saw the warning signs and were able to quickly get him into Hasbro Hospital for treatment. This was one of the reasons why we were not happy with the distance between home and his residential placement. All of his doctors were back in his home area and we were not able to physically check on him on a regular basis. Sean was once again able to recover from this potentially deadly condition. Like I said, my boy is as strong as an ox. However, we met with his cardio doctor and she determined that he would need open heart surgery to close the large hole in his heart. She stated that if this was to happen again, the outcome would probably not be good at all. As anyone can imagine, my wife and I felt scared, anxious, and somewhat defeated. And that is what it is.
The details and accuracy of these events are to the best of our knowledge. Any discrepancy in terms of time and/or dates are not intended to mislead the listener. These stories are true and officially documented.
Stay tuned to episode 6 of these podcast series.